Здесь будешь помогать мне. Hey, good morning, guys. Can you hear me? Hello? Come on, folks. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Okay, hold on. Why? There's a lot of 24 people online. Are you sure? Yeah, right. Okay, hold on. So, please mute yourself. You guys okay? There's a password in the general channel, right? You saw it.
Doesn't require if you just type in the link.
Yeah. Yeah, because we have 37 people. All right, let's get started, guys. So you cannot see my screen, huh? Okay. Now can you see my screen?
No. Yes. Okay.
That one, right? All right, so here's the chat window. Right here. Okay. So let's get going. So today we're gonna talk about test automation and the framework in particular. And we will actually write our first test case, automated test case together. All right. So who can tell me what's test automation? Anyone?
It's when you test using the tools that automate your testing.
Okay, so basically it's when you don't do a thing, a robot does the job for you and you just get paid, right? I wish.
Yeah.
Well, you can actually search in Google. There is a story about a guy automated like his whole job and he was just doing nothing for 2 years or something. I don't know if it's true or not, but if you're curious, that's kind of the end goal in the real world. Of course, it's never going to happen because application is constantly changing. And I mean, come on, nobody's going to pay you for nothing, right? Okay. Why we need test automation?
To speed up the process.
Okay, to speed up the process, good.
To save the money.
To save time, yes. Be efficient. Kind of, yeah. To make life easier. I would say automation is not going to make your life easier. It's going to overcomplicate your life for sure. Automation is the whole entire world. It's huge. It's programming. It's tough. Get paid more. Well, and yeah, that's a side effect of it. Yeah, basically, some of the processes are repetitive and boring, if you wish, and test automation really is the key for that. Because if I ask you to run smoke every hour, you will get crazy in a week, right? That's why we have test automation. You can automate it. It's kind of it's fun process really. But you automate it only once, and then every time you execute your automation, basically it's free time for you. You just click one button and it does the job for you. So it's nice. And you can execute it as many times. Now, if I ask you to run it every time, every hour, you will say like, yeah, no problem. I mean, even 10 minutes if you wish, right? You don't care really.
We'll do it at night, right?
A regression, yes, but the whole industry is going to make it much faster, so it doesn't take like 8 hours or so. So you have to run it at night. In some companies, or if the test automation framework is poorly designed, yeah, that's the case. They have to run regression at night, but smoke usually takes a few minutes. To make the same things again and again, yes, save profit for company. I mean, in the long run, yeah, it's a different model. Again, the return on investment is roughly the following. So as a manual QA, to, let's say, run your 10 test cases, which is smoke suite, it will take you, let's say, 10 minutes, right? And you know it. To automate those 10 test cases, it will take you probably, let's say 100 hours, right? Well, you will see that it can take faster, but just a rough idea. But once it's automated, every time you run, it's basically zero, right? But every time you do it manually, it's still 10 minutes, right? So at the moment when amount of time invested in automation kind of becomes more than the less actually than manual time, because if you run it once, of course, it doesn't make sense to automate because it takes you 100 hours, which is, let's say, like 2 weeks or so, right? Roughly. But then second time, third time, like 100th time, 1000th time maybe, it will actually become more efficient with the time, right? So it's really important to understand that no, not everything should be automated. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. You can spend 100 hours to automate thing, and you're going to run it 3 times. I mean, it's complete waste of time, right? Okay, good. You have time to drink coffee for sure. Some of the tasks actually you cannot do as a human being. Let's say validate database that has like billion of rows of data. Like how many clients Facebook has, for example. Billion, right? Something like that. How many messages those billion people sent throughout like the, let's say, what was the, like, let's say 10 years. I mean, imagine the number. If you like sent, I don't know, 10, 20 a day, it's like bazillions. And it's all that data stored in a database somewhere. It's like huge amount of data. There is no way as a human being you can validate that data. No way. Machine can do that. Right? And another one, right now we're in a continuous delivery kind of world, or at least companies try to do so. So they try to kind of eliminate the human mistakes and basically time. So the whole pipeline should be automated. So you click a button, with the new feature, it goes to dev environment, all the tests are running there, it gets promoted to QA environment, all the tests gets running there, stage production right there. So the, I don't know if you've been to, or if you watched the movie, the meetup, one of our meetups, there was, oh, it's actually not posted, but yeah, it's gonna be on Monday. So they say that it takes around 1 hour or so in Tinder. You know Tinder, right? It's a huge dating application. So it takes about 1 hour because it's all automated from basically developer checking the code all the way to production. There is no manual QA involved in the process. There is no kind of stop anywhere. So it goes all the way, or it stops and nothing goes. If there is some problem, it stops, and then you have to figure out what's the problem and fix it. So the next time you run it, it should go all the way. Well, not all the companies can afford that. It's really hard. It's expensive. Those guys costs, they make ridiculous amount of money, and even if you hire 5 of them, probably not going to be enough, even though they make like 200K each. So we're talking about like millions and billions of dollars. Plus, it's a special mindset. It's like managers should understand, because some things you cannot even measure in money. So these things like continuous delivery, it's above the money. But anyways, okay. The problem with test automation, you have to write a script. A script is dummy, right? And that script is really, you have to tell everything to that script. So you have to know everything up front, right? And you write a script accordingly. And if something goes wrong, it's all breaking, right? So you cannot figure out like if there was a change by mistake or it's a bug, it will just break. All right. So we already explained a little bit about ROI, return on investment. And I was asked on one of the interviews about return on investment for automation. Does it make sense, guys? Return on investment for automation? No? Okay.
Yes, it is.
So usually in the early stages in companies like startups, once they hire like first QA, usually there is no QA, only developers in the beginning. Once they hire first QA, there is no QA process. And probably there is a very small chance they have any automation in place because it wasn't important for them. So if you get to that kind of company, probably you will start do everything manually first. And if you have time, then with the time you will start automating things, right? And ideally, you want to keep up with the application, so all the smoke and regression, all the test cases are automated, but it can take you like years really to get there. And again, sometimes it's just not possible at all. It doesn't mean that automation will replace the manual QAs. Again, sometimes it doesn't make sense, right? Sometimes it's not that important. But if company grows and the business takes off and it's all going like becoming bigger and bigger, they usually start thinking about automation, improving the processes and speeding up everything. So we're gonna talk today about framework, and who can tell me what framework is? Have you ever heard that word?
Yes, during the interview.
So what is framework?
How did you answer?
Selenium is framework.
Is it a tools that you use for automation, or it's like the scope, tools and scope?
It's like you know this shelves in a garage?
Yeah.
Like a metal frame with the shelves, right?
So it's Selenium, right?
But it's empty, right?
Yeah.
And it just stays there, but there is nothing. So this framework is really a set of tools that will support you like this shelves. But you have to write your test cases and put them on the shelves, right? Otherwise, it's just empty. But it defines like a structure and the way you're gonna be writing test automation. Usually, there is a lot of different tools integrated. I'm gonna show that to you. That framework that you hopefully installed already. And there is a lot of different frameworks on the market. Developers use their own frameworks as well, because these days, like if you want to build any application, who can tell me what's the framework for your application?
For these?
Mm-hmm.
Selenium?
No, the development framework.
Nice question. No, first one is
No, for actual application. They can ask you, tell me about your application. What's the programming language developers use to write their application?
Java.
Huh?
Java.
No.
JavaScript.
JavaScript, yes, right. What's the database?
Oh, I know this one. MongoDB?
MongoDB, exactly. So what's a front-end framework?
JavaScript.
It's JavaScript for sure. What exactly?
JSON? No?
No? It's React.js.
Very close.
Yeah. So basically the whole modern companies, they use, a lot of times they use this JavaScript-based framework because of simplicity. And back in the days, their front end is always JavaScript, okay? So your browser only understands how to use JavaScript, nothing else, period. So all the front end frameworks basically JavaScript based. So Angular, React, Backbone, and so on, whatever. For us, React is actually the most popular front end framework these days. The backend frameworks, those are complete different things. It's a backend application that you test with Postman, right? Whatever it sends to you. So on the backend, it's completely different world. Back in the days, there was a Java. I mean, Java is still popular in like C# and Ruby and Python. They have their own frameworks. But these days, a lot of, the problem here, you see, backend, let's say in Java, frontend in JavaScript. What should developer know now? 2 programming languages, right? Automatically. And those two programming languages are completely different. JavaScript is very special, very different from anything else. Backend languages like C#, Python, Ruby, Java, they are somewhat similar, but JavaScript is way off. So kind of to make life easier, what they do now, they have this Node.js, the backend, which is JavaScript based. It's called Node.js. That's a framework for backend. And front end is React.js. So it's basically JavaScript over there and JavaScript here as well. The only part is missing is database. With relational databases, like select, all of those things, right? Again, what's SQL? It's another programming language, right? So now they have to know 3, right? And come on, there is such a huge demand on the market. You cannot find like a nice person, like a single nice person. It's very hard. Well, now you gotta find someone who knows 3 programming languages, basically. Is it easier? No, right? So what they did, they introduced MongoDB, which is really a JavaScript again. So all 3 parts, all 3 basically JavaScript. And it makes life a little bit easier. And now front-end developers can actually switch to kind of back-end development and so on, because front-end development considered to be easier than back-end. If you remember that word like webmaster, those guys didn't know any programming languages. They only use HTML and CSS basically. JavaScript, it was like something like way far for them. Well, after they started learning JavaScript, but they still missing, let's say, Java part, right? So now kind of it's all together. So anyways, with this being said, our framework is actually, who can tell me what's the programming languages we're gonna use for automation? No? Programming language?
Python? JavaScript?
It's JavaScript. In most companies, if a main application is written in JavaScript, then automation framework is probably going to be the same language. If it's Java, then a lot of chances it's going to be Java. Why? Because you can ask help from developers and they know way more than you, usually. If you have a key, well, with the time, you will get there. But if you have a key to developer, to your team, that's the key to success, really. Because again, it's a teamwork. Right? Okay. So here's how our framework gonna look like. Programming language, JavaScript. We're not gonna dive into JavaScript really. It's very complicated, even for beginners. We have a special course which is 3 months minimum. We don't cover like much of like interview preparation during that class or anything. It's mostly about programming languages and how to write regression, how to automate using programming languages. And yeah, as I mentioned, our test framework uses Node.js again, so it's JavaScript and Node.js, right? The same basically stack. We need Selenium WebDriver for actually using a real browser. So you will see that it will actually open up the browser. The same browser that you have on your machine basically will simulate the user. Instead of you clicking throughout like the application, the script will click those elements and you will actually see it does that. It does it very, very fast actually, in fact. And we're gonna use Cucumber. So you're all familiar with Cucumber, right? What's Cucumber? Gherkin. What's Gherkin? What's the difference, guys, between Cucumber and Gherkin? No difference? Yeah, which one is tool and which one is language?
Gherkin is language.
Gherkin is language, yes. You can write user stories in Gherkin, you can write test cases in Gherkin, right? Well, Cucumber makes basically that Gherkin text, because is Gherkin, it's a JavaScript code?
No.
No, it's just basically plain English, right?
Mhm.
What Cucumber does, it translates that English written text into JavaScript code that you can run after.
Extension.
It's a special library or module, and it exists basically for any programming language. There is such thing as sometimes it's called different. For example, for the most languages, it's called Cucumber. For example, Java or JavaScript. But for C# it's called SpecFlow. So there is no Cucumber for C#. Well, there is, but it's called SpecFlow, and it uses the same Gherkin language, right? So yeah, just make sure you understand the difference, right? And then we have some more stuff. So assertion library being used in our framework called Chai. Yeah, it's Chai, the tea. And if you know JavaScript a little bit, they have a lot of like drinks related names like Mocha, for example, another one, and you can Google some other stuff as well. And dependency management yarn, you probably were struggling to install it, right? And it's actually very, very nice library that will help you with the installation. Basically, to install all the framework, all that you need to do is install yarn and then run yarn install, and it does like all those hundreds of libraries, whatever is needed. You don't even have to know about that. And then we're going to use Chrome because it's the most popular browser. That framework actually has a support of Sauce Labs. So who can tell me what Sauce Labs is?
It's emulator.
Guys, online folks, Sauce Labs?
It's emulator.
So it's a cloud service with a subscription. It's kind of pricey these days. It will basically give you any browser you wish. For example, I'm running Windows machine right now, and I want to run my Smoke on Safari. How would I do that? I mean, there is no way. I don't have Mac, right? Well, with the Sauce Labs, I can say like, hey, run my script on Safari. And even I can be more precise there. I can say, hey, run that script on Safari 10.3, let's say, running Mac, I don't know, Mountain Lion, old one. Otherwise, I mean, pretty much you cannot find it. It's too old, right? Well, the Sauce Labs will give you basically whatever you wish. It has like, I believe over 800 of combinations. You can request like Chrome 77, for example. And we are running what, 78, 79 now? You can request like 25th Chrome, let's say, which was released like 3 years ago or so. It's still there. And it's simple, like this.
Sorry, is it about only the platform or about the devices? So you can...
It's about, yeah, devices that you're going to be running your test cases on.
So
it actually has mobile devices as well. So if you want to run, it's a web application, right? But it doesn't mean that we cannot run our script on, let's say, Safari on iOS 11, let's say. If you would like to, yes, Sauce Labs has all of them. Those things,
so
the same thing.
Right?
It's
emulator, no?
Yes, it mostly provides you like this on-demand platforms, combinations of operating system and browser. Yeah, another good thing about a test automation, it's supposed, if you write it once, it's supposed to run on any browser, basically, right? For manual QAs, if you want to run your Smoke on Chrome, it will take you 10 minutes. Then you want to run it on IE, another 10 minutes, right? And so on. It adds up. Every time it adds up. For test automation, basically, once you write that script, you can run on any platform, on any browser, and at the same time, actually. as a human being, you cannot run it at the same time on Chrome and IE, right? It's going to be only one at a time. So that's, again, a beauty of automation. And we're going to use Microsoft Visual Studio Code with the Cucumber plugin. So it's a free IDE done by Microsoft. I think it's pretty nice when it comes to our particular framework. All right.
What is CI tools? Sometimes I saw CD too.
Yeah, so that one, CI tool, so we use IDE. It's integrated development environment, which is basically editor, text editor, nothing else. Well, it's kind of fancy text editor, but the code is really just a text. So developers write code which is text. You can open it in Notepad, in anywhere. It's just a simple text. Well, you cannot run it from Notepad. And IDE allows you to run your code that you write. And more than that, it allows you to, it auto-suggests you like completion, because if you don't remember the name of like methods or Cucumber steps, it actually pre-populates them. It says like, hey, do you mean like this or maybe that? So you start typing and it shows you the options. So you don't have to really like know exactly, because if you miss like misspell with, let's say, lowercase with uppercase, technically it's not going to work. But this thing will show you like, hey, it's actually supposed to be uppercase. Do you mean that? And you're like, oh, yeah, okay, thank you. And it will prevent you from doing like errors, mistakes, and a lot of things. But it's just a text editor. So don't say that my environment was like Visual Studio Code. No, Visual Studio Code is really not the environment. Environment is JavaScript and Node.js and Selenium WebDriver. That's the environment. And this is Visual Studio Code, just editor. You can use Notepad if you want. All right, so guys, could you give me a plus if you were able to install the framework? Okay. No?
I tried.
On site, folks, come on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay. 50-50 so far. minus. Okay, what was the problem, guys? Didn't have time. Yarn problem. Okay, with dependency. Okay. Okay, another yarn. All right. I see, so a lot of yarn problems. Okay, just please ask in Ask Me channel. We have a person actually who can probably, he can help you. His name is, what's the tech support, Alex, that's his name. Okay, so I'm gonna open up drop this. So I'm gonna open up the Visual Studio Code. All right, can you see it, guys? It's a little dark, at least here. Okay, so this is, once you installed and followed all the instructions that we provided, you should see something like this. And yeah, this is just a black screen with some files on the left. And this is your actual code that we're gonna write. But before we go there, let me show you real quick this file. So video.conf.js. This is the configuration written in JavaScript. We're not gonna like touch a lot here, but just FYI, if you need to change some settings, for example, capabilities here. You see max instances. So the framework will actually run your code in 5 browsers at the same time. So it comes with that feature, which is very nice. Capabilities here, you see we define browser as a Chrome. Basically, if you change it here to, let's say, Firefox, assuming you have Firefox installed, it's going to run it in Firefox, which is nice. This one, I've added this to start window in maximized mode. So it's going to be full screen. Why do you guys think we need a full screen window? What's wrong with the resolution, Zakia? All buttons. Well, okay, the clue here, yeah, it's a resolution, but why? What kind of application do we have?
Web.
It's web. Okay, what else? Web, yes. What? A little more details. Can I run it on my phone?
Like a mobile friendly?
Yeah, like a mobile friendly. What's the name of that? Technical.
Mobile web application.
No, it's web. It's not mobile.
Oh, we can run it on browser
on the mobile browser. Yes, but it's still browser, right? It's not like application that you install.
Hybrid?
No, it's not hybrid, guys. You're very close. Keep thinking. You remember like adaptive?
No.
And another word was, starts with R. Responsive, guys.
Ah, yeah.
It's a web responsive application. So back in the days, if you remember, like a few years ago, there was, if you open a website from your, let's say, desktop, it's, let's say, facebook.com. If you type facebook.com in your phone browser, you will actually see that it's m.facebook.com, mobile version of the website. So it used to be 2 different versions, one for mobile and one for desktop. And then and it decides which one you will get based on a couple of things from your browser, user agent to be specific, and a screen size. Those 2 things are being used by a backend to determine which view you should get, you should return. And if it sees like it's, let's say, iOS Safari, obviously you should get mobile view, right? And it will change the Facebook to m.facebook or mobile.facebook.com, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
Some time ago, maybe a few years.
Until now.
Well, these days, usually if you go to Facebook, it's just Facebook.
It's not on the Facebook, but there is some.
And the same with DINs. Well, those old, I believe Aeroflot actually still has that.
Yes, something like that.
Well, DINs is a modern application, so, and it's responsive. Basically, what responsive means, you all remember that, right? So this is the desktop version, right? And if I go to console, this is mobile version, right? So I can change it to, I can toggle it, no, toggle it here, and then I have a few presets over there. Where's my mouse? Right here. I can pick the font, so it will, you see how screen looks like? So I open on my phone, it's gonna be exactly the same. It's pretty, it's long, right? But it's not wide. So you can actually switch. They have a couple of presets here. So you can change it to, let's say, Galaxy S5. You see, it's wider. It's kind of still the same mobile view, but well,
Because of the size, yeah.
not like 100%. You see, some of the text gets like truncated because the size of the screen. You see, free, for example, this case it fits in the second line. In this case, you see, it's on the third line. But I mean, nothing is wrong with the app, right? It's fine. But based on the screen size, it transforms actually automatically. And you have more actually. You can do like iPad like this. And you can actually, as you see here, these are the most common breakpoints. Mobile 320. So it's like kind of generic mobile phone. So most of the mobile phones will have like 320 pixels width. And then you can click like mobile M, a little bit like medium size, right? Mobile L, like large size, because we have like, even for iPhone, now they offer this Plus or what's in, right? And it's the same for like Samsung Note or Galaxy. They have bigger screens and wider screens and so on. So these are the most popular ones. So for tablet, this is what used by like Galaxy Tab or any other tab or iPad, right? And this is laptop. So now this is kind of, it's still only 1024. It's not that crazy, right? And then like laptop L, the last one. Well, my laptop is 4K actually, but it will still gonna be basically this resolution. And yeah, you can do responsive or you can use these presets. You can actually edit them. So this is a very short way of basically testing. But the trick here, if I open it in this screen, what do I get? I don't even know, right? How do you know? Like, I mean, I can measure it and so on, but its script will probably fail because, for example, there is no login button. You see, if it's full screen, it's desktop for sure, and there is a login and sign up and create a trip, right? If it's not, then it's nobody knows what exactly it is. And I bet you, if you all try to just open browser not in like full screen size, you will all get different size of the screen because it really depends on nothing. It's just settings on your computer. So in that case, it's unpredictable. If we run it in that, I bet you 30% of you will get a failure. And that's it. So that's why it's kind of safer for us just to start it in a full screen mode, right? Make sense? And then we have some settings, more technical. You see, it actually will capture screenshots automatically. So if on failure, there's going to be a screenshot. So again, it's kind of nice. Framework does it already. So it's pretty nice framework, actually. You can use it. Once you get a job, you can start automating your smoke with the same framework. Base URL. What is that?
Yes.
Yeah, you can replace it here, and every time it will open up the browser, it will navigate to this base URL automatically, so you don't have to do it. And another good thing, if you want to use relative path, let's say login page, you see it's, if I click login,
That will change the login.
you see it, now it's login. So, and sometimes it can be pretty long. So because we have that base URL, we don't have to like specify this part every time. We can only say just login, go to page login, and we'll go there. And
we can write it there?
Not there, but in the test, like register, for example. So it's kind of nice. And then wait for, this is the timeout, some other settings. You see a lot of code is commented out. They just want to show you that it's there. You can use it, but I mean, it's better know what you're doing. You can comment it out, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can get, again, unpredictable results. And then framework, Cucumber, and some options for Cucumber. Again, these are the different libraries that Yarn installs for you, including Cucumber itself and a lot of other ones. Some tags, and you see Chai here now. We see Chai.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another library package for Node.js. Again, we kind of don't care. Yarn takes care of everything. So we're lazy developers, right? So yeah, you can see it's like 250 lines already there. For us, the most important one is the base URL, really. This one. And the rest, whatever. Okay, anyway, so this is how it works. So first of all, you need to find the features folder. Of course, once you install everything and follow the instruction. So, and in the features folder, you will need to create a new file. Just right-click, new file, and then you give it a name. I mean, nothing fancy, but usually these features, these are basically functionality. It's like test suite. It's a set of test cases that usually somehow related to each other, right? So this whole thing would be basically regression, all the test cases, all the feature files, but then within the feature file, you will put only test cases related to, usually it's split by page name. So login, I would put like all, let's say 8 test cases related to login, right? What would we have for login, for regression? How do we test login, guys?
Username.
Like this one.
The first test case is open the page. Yeah, the positive.
Okay, the first one is positive, meaning what?
Meaning the right email, right password.
You log in with the right credentials and you expect the result.
It's entering the
You're logged in,
yeah.
all right?
Okay.
What would be the second test case?
wrong
Negative.
email. Yeah, the negative. Or we can just
Like non-existing email, for example,
Yeah.
right? So, and your expected result,
not
Cannot
log
log
in.
in?
to be more
The
precise,
message, the pop-up message.
some error message saying something. And then existing user, but with the wrong password, right? And then you can start doing some other crazy stuff like, what if it's empty, like
Yeah.
0, nothing, right?
Yeah.
Well,
should be
the
on.
login page, you expected result that the button actually is you see it's gray, it's disabled. It's actually not. It's enabled, it works. You see, I clicked it and it says the error message, but the button is gray. Is it a bug? I would say probably no, because the error message is nice, but that's another test case, right? And so on. You can type the real something here, but let's say empty password, right? Well, it's the same actually.
What about the accept?
And so on. We already came up with like 5, right?
Yeah.
And then we have some other stuff here. You have like sign up, links, forgot password link, right? And so on. Make sense?
Yeah.
So all of these test cases would go under this login feature file here. So once you create it, all that you need to do is just, you have to give it a name. So this is this, you see feature, and it shows me like, okay, feature, insert feature, huh? So I can just hit enter. And it gives it like generic feature name, but it's selected already. So I don't even have to like click delete or backspace. I can just give it a name like login. So this is kind of power of IDE. It kind of auto-suggests you some stuff. It highlights everything. So even, I mean, is it hard for me to like move my mouse cursor and hit like delete button? It's not, right? But the thing even removes that boring stuff from me. Once I hit enter, it only highlighted, and it expects me to type the name. So even like this little thing here and there, it makes life easier. So once we gave it a name, and you have to do this. If you do something wrong here, it's very, again, this Gherkin syntax is, it's called pseudo language. So it means it actually has a structure. You cannot just go crazy and type like, how did you spend your summer or something, right? You gotta have feature and then column. If you miss the column, you see, well, I mean, it's dead right there. One character will break everything. So, but if you do it like this, you see now this one is blue. This one has like some other color. Again, if you misspell feature with like lowercase, it's case sensitive. You see it's broken again. So that's why you have to follow the rules, and IDE will help you. If you forgot, like should be like uppercase or lowercase, the thing actually helps you with that.
What is instruction for this?
Okay, once we define this is feature is basically like a file name. Well, you can say like login page, test cases, or something like that, right? You can actually use the description. It actually says like, hey, you can write some description here, right? So, okay. I can just say like login, and here I can say login page test cases as a description. And then after that, I have to do, it's called scenario. See, I started typing S, it picks up like, hey, do you mean scenario? And yeah, of course, you see, again, scenario, colon, space. Again, if you miss one of the characters, it will break. And it's highlighted again, right? It's selected already. So I can just start writing a name. So what's the test case, guys, for login page we're gonna do first?
The page?
Yeah, for login functionality, what's the?
Positive.
Yeah, positive. So give me scenario name for the test case.
Go to login URL
No.
page.
What's scenario, guys? In other words?
Scenario, it's like a when,
Title?
then.
It's a title of test case, exactly. Oh yeah, it's a little different verbiage, right? But it's title basically. So how will we name this test case?
Positive smoke.
Login page?
Should be specific feature. Login function.
Come on. Come on site people. online folks actually nailing it. Come on. User login successfully. I love that one. Why? I'm very concise. I never throw a single word if it's not needed. Ask yourself, is this word is needed there? So to me, like pretty much user logs in successfully, that's a minimum that you can write, but it's clear, right? You don't give it like all the details, but it's clear, like you're supposed to log in, right? Or some people will give it a name like user is able to log in, for example. Well, it's 4 words, so I don't like that one. I mean, it's still fine, right? But it's up to you. If I get this test case for verification, I wouldn't ask you to change it. It's okay. It's clear. It's still concise. But for myself, I would try to do it with 3 words. With 2, with 1, or nothing. Well,
what about
you have to start with something.
Successful login.
Successful login is another one. Yes, that one is acceptable too. Okay, let's do successful login.
It's clear that it's user.
It's 2 words, right? Yeah. Okay, so once we've done that, well, user logs in is not clear, right? Or is it clear? I mean, pretty much, probably it's clear, right? Logs in.
Successful login, it makes like a sense that it's user login. Right?
Yeah, you can drop some words sometimes. Yeah. Okay, so successful login. Again, I'm not gonna like be too strict about it. It has to be clear, because the next one is gonna be like unsuccessful login, right? Well, no. Unsuccessful login now is not clear, right? there is something, there should be something wrong about this unsuccessful login. So user logs in with an incorrect password, for example. Right now it's clear.
Yeah.
But you get the idea, right? Anyways, okay, once we, let me close a couple of things here. Once we finish with the title, and you can see it's really the same thing. It's just a matter of kind of like structuring or giving it a format probably, right? Title is here is scenario, feature is basically like a test suite, it's a set of test cases, right? Just different names, but it's all the same. It's nothing new that you should be learning here. Well, you cannot say that the scenario is test case. It's not going to work. It expects scenario, right? Okay. Done. Okay, let's actually maybe start with something simple. And this first test case, this one is going to be second one. Before we actually even go there, let's do, it's called entry point test case. So basically, it's not even login, but it's how you get to login page. So home page here, you cannot log in anywhere, right? But we want to test like all the functionality related to login. And for the very first test case, we want to just make sure that user can get to that page. Because if there is no login button here and user lands on this page, there is no way user can log in, right? So let's do that one first. So basically our first test case is going to be we land on the home page, we click login button, and we get to this page. Very simple, right? And then the second one is going to be we're actually logging in. So it's like a smooth kind of workflow from start to end. And smoke usually is the whole user workflow, right? That will include login, searching, and purchasing. And purchasing usually it's a separate workflow. It consists of few pages, right?
But it's still smoke, right?
Yeah. Well, of course, we don't have time to automate it all today, but just to kind of show you the most common like test flows, right? So login is pretty much going to be using a lot, and transition between the pages. When you log in, you get redirected to home page, right? Is that a correct statement?
Yeah.
So basically you can say like, if I try to log in, then I should be on a home page, but not only I should be on a home page, there should be some indicator that will show you that you actually logged in, right? Some icon or, I mean, something. We don't know that yet, but well, we do, but okay, let's start with the home page. So the very first one, we just navigate to login page, right? So let me actually change it. So, okay, not successful login, but navigate to login page, something like that. So, and let's start with what's the precondition in terms of Gherkin?
Open?
No? Given is precondition, right?
Yeah.
So we say given, and then you see it. Oh, you see, I misspelled it for some reason, but it still says me like, hey, you actually miss V, and you see V is white, but GI and EN are blue. So it actually even highlights like what exactly I misspell, right? So this is power of ID. and then start to type your given step here. So it kind of asks me to create a step, but we have something better here. So let me show you. So if you go to README MD, and this is common file for any code, any like testing frameworks or application, most of them will have readme.md file. So if you click on it, you will actually see a lot of text here. And this is like the explanation how this framework works. You see yard install and all that. A lot of things explained here. You'll see it's kind of ugly syntax here, but that's because we are in editing mode. I believe there is where's that open preview. So if on open preview, you see how nice it now, with all the headings and bullets and everything. So this is the preview mode. So how to play with this? Yeah, there is a lot of information. In particular, I'm interested in these steps. And this is a list of predefined steps. Remember, we're not touching JavaScript. Basically, this framework has a lot of predefined steps, basically for any occasion. So we don't even have to know the JavaScript really with this framework. And if you just scroll down a little bit, the very first one, I opened the URL site and right? That's basically exactly what we want to. We just copy it here and go back to login feature, and we can just paste it in here. So it's not working because we need to, so this is pipe symbol. It shows like we should keep only one part. So we can just do, I think it doesn't really matter. So we can just keep the site. And this one is a special regular expression. It just shows that you need to replace it with something like this. And remember that base page in config? So if we want to go to home page, what we should put in there?
Base URL? Slash?
Yeah, just slash, that's it. It will grab that base URL from config file and it will append the slash, so we will get this one, right? Basically we'll get this, which is valid URL, right? I believe we may, I'm not sure, but we probably can even just say nothing. Okay, once we did this, let's actually try to run it. But first, let me remove these empty spaces. I just don't like them. So how do we run this?
There must be some button with run, no?
Okay, some button.
Somewhere. Sorry, I didn't install this.
Yeah, Anastasia, you can give a full URL. It will work as fine as well, HTTPS, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, we are lazy. It knows the base URL already, so we just don't want to do that. So to run it, if you install the framework, you should know that you should just go here. So most of the nicer, so Visual Studio Code is very, very basic IDE. It doesn't have a lot of features. It has a lot of plugins, like Cucumber is one of them, but it doesn't have those buttons.
Yeah.
So what we need to do here, make sure that it's CMD, and then here you do run, right? Like this. And let's see what's gonna happen. You probably cannot see it, but it's in a different screen. You see Chrome popped up, you see it goes to home page. Oh, okay, hold on. It even does something. You're not supposed to see it. Well, the problem is because I had my code in this file, and you see this dot here?
Yeah.
I've never saved the new code, so it still has my old code. So to do so every time, it's actually, yeah, very important. Control S, you see, now I saved it. You see there is no dot here. So now it will run this code. Otherwise, whatever I type here, it was using the previous code because the file that is open at the moment, the file is saved. Those are two different files, really different versions. So you have to save it. Visual Studio, you have to save it in other IDs. It usually saves everything automatically, so you don't have to do that. Anyways, hold on. Let's try one more time. That was my bad. Next time you can just do up arrow on your keyboard. It will pick up the last command, which is the same one, right? So again, it opens the browser in the wrong window. Let's see what's going to happen. I mean, could you see Deans.com website or staging environment of Deans.com? It wasn't empty window, right? It navigated somewhere, right? Am I right? No? Want to try one more time? Again, up, arrow key, enter. This is the browser. You see it's full screen. Well, it went somewhere, but I believe we cannot keep it empty because it appended like undefined. So let's do it with this. Yeah, it closes the browser automatically. It opens up the browser automatically. It does a lot of things. This is the framework kind of power. So it does a lot of things that kind of we don't have to specify anywhere. Oh, okay, now you see it's the right URL. And it only goes to homepage and nothing else because we never asked for anything, right? That's the only thing that we asked for. Okay, so what next? We want to click this login button, right? Oops, I don't want to click. So guys, do you have a guess how we can click on the login button?
Navigate cursor, or just launch the login button?
Then type login and there.
We should find element
Find the element.
in console and put the.
Yes, as a human being, we just visually find the element and click, physically click with the finger, right? Or with the mouse, or like with button, right? For machine, does it have a finger? No. No, right? There should be another way. There should be another way. So, okay, you guys got it. So we need to inspect this element and figure out the locator. So, who can tell me, who can find me a locator for that element? So this is the console. Yeah, just post it in the Zoom group chat, guys.
You can see.
Yeah, I found it.
Okay, let's see. Well, where's my console and .login header.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try it out. So we just do Control F and then .login like this.
No.
What happened?
No, it doesn't.
Zeros, right?
Yeah.
Why is that?
You need to put
Something missing.
in front this.
Maybe break.
Yeah, guys, let's do a break, and we will get back shortly. Alrighty, guys. So, why there are so few students in the class? Yeah, that's a good question. I wish I knew the answer. Can you guys hear me well, right? It's all good? All right, we have an announcement here. So let's welcome. Hold on. We can do it this way, right?
Mhm.
Hey.
Maybe can you sit closer?
Oh yeah, probably it's not gonna. Yeah, you can just maybe just
This is
stay
just
over there.
I wasn't ready for it.
Okay.
So guys, if you remember, I mean, if you're following me on Telegram, I usually count there every and each offer. So Dennis is actually 56 one. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, actually, I got some messages in the chat in the Telegram. Oh, who is that guy? I mean, you're always posting the numbers, but no disclosing names. And I do this obviously purposely, right? But yeah, he's recently passed the whole background check and he got official offer here in Los Angeles. The other guy was from where? Also, I believe, because recently on this week we got 2 offers, and Genius is one of them. Well, first of all, I want to say welcome to on the board. You're now officially QA, but still, it's you just got an offer. But when is your first day going to start?
December 2nd.
December 2nd. All right. Can you tell us, like, how did that happen? Like, what did you do? How long? Let's start with the first question. How long ago did you start applying for the jobs?
I started applying probably 3 weeks before I got the offer. So basically, almost 4 weeks ago. So,
Almost 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
So, and this came from an online application. So I basically was sending out a lot of applications and connecting with recruiters online and on LinkedIn. And the process itself was pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So this company responded maybe in a week after I submitted the application. And then I had a phone interview with the manager, my direct supervisor, or now to be my direct supervisor. And then they invited me to an on-site the same week, which was like 3 hours on-site interview. I interviewed with their software architects, their one of their principals, the DevOps manager. So like I think I interviewed with 5 people total, and they were like asking me different types of questions. Honestly, you never know, and you cannot like fully prepare to the actual questions. They were asking me, like, I researched a lot of resources as to what questions are asked during interviews. I've been asked only like 1/3 of the ones I found. Everything else was like completely different, and I had to like think a little.
Yeah, there is a trick. You said that there is no QA at all, right?
I'm the first.
You're gonna be the first QA. They don't have even QA manager.
No.
Right? That's the thing. Because his position you, the guys who interview you, they actually have no idea about QA. They have guessing. They know obviously like about something, maybe unit testing. They might know, heard about regression testing, but that's pretty much it. And that's why they were asking probably really tough questions, specifically.
A lot of technical,
And
yes.
specifically.
Those were like basically developers and engineers.
Yes, exactly.
So,
So tell us, like, how did you survive?
well, you know, the process, they were asking me questions as to what tools I use for testing, the process of testing itself, what features I had experience testing, how I create bug reports and test cases. So basically the things that I learned in the course, they asked, but not in depth. Those were, I think they count how quickly you respond to those things. If they see that, okay, this guy knows his stuff, he probably will respond to those questions, and they don't keep asking you same all over again. At least they didn't ask them from me. What they do though is they try to test how in depth the knowledge, my knowledge was. So they were asking the application architecture, the differences between languages, like programming languages. They're asking, like, do you know why it is like C language is used instead of Python, or JavaScript is used instead of C++? So I think this, their questions were based on what I was saying to them. I was saying that I, kind of used to do some Python scripts for my work and stuff. I think they basically decided to test me on those things. So like to find out what I know about like software architecture, about like databases, about connecting with APIs and stuff like that. So they were, and there was no correct or incorrect answer, in my opinion. It was really just trying to identify if the knowledge I have is enough for me to be trained on everything they do, or if I, lack some basic things that they, but again, I think mostly those technical questions were coming from them because they were developers.
Yes.
Because they know these things and they.
But did you have feeling that you know a little bit more than them in terms of testing?
Yeah, testing definitely.
Did you feel that you was educated them?
Yeah, I kind of.
Right? Okay, that's the main thing what they are looking for, especially when they are looking for the first QA. To be honest, they are looking for a person who will not be asked directions. They are looking for a person who will tell them how to do this instead of waiting when they because they don't know. They're looking for a problem solver.
Yeah.
So you come there and you say, okay, I know how to do this. You're doing, guys, here all wrong. Just, I mean, obviously I'm exaggerated here, but still, you're a professional in the QA, and I think that's a really great experience to be the first QA. And as you mentioned that you have a potential to be a QA lead there, right?
Yeah.
There was a question actually. Can you give some example of questions that they asked in terms of like technical that you couldn't answer?
The person who was asking the most of the technical questions, he was actually a systems engineer.
Okay.
And he decided to ask me if I know what a virtual memory is, for example. Honestly, I wasn't prepared. I know what a virtual environment is, but so here's...
I wouldn't answer this question either.
Well, yeah, and I didn't. And I was like, I don't know. And he appreciated this, even though I didn't know, he didn't expect me to know. He was testing the in-depth, how much I know, but he wasn't expecting me to know this. So it's not a requirement. It's not something that I would be doing. I wouldn't be testing. I wouldn't be like, doing some systems engineering. But he wanted to know because I think if I know this thing, it will be easier for him to work with me. If I don't know, at least, if I say I don't know, at least he will know that I'm not making things up.
Exactly.
Just,
yeah.
I'm purely saying what I know, because whenever they were asking something I do know, they could clearly see that I was throwing answers at them right away. I was like, I know these answers because I was preparing for them. And sometimes when he felt like I know the answer to the question, he wasn't even letting me finish. He was like, okay, you know this. He was like, you can stop. I can see you know this. But again, the testing side of things, they weren't questioning a lot. Again, questions like one of them asked, how do you track bugs? Like they also ask, how do you make sure the bugs is sent back to the right developer? How do you link the test cases with, I don't know, with bugs, for example?
They were prepared, to be honest. Usually,
I mean,
yeah,
it's from the experience, I think, because those people are really highly experienced. They're like very experienced engineers. They know the process and they probably know what the testers do, not in depth. They weren't asking me like how, I don't know, some deep down questions, but in general, yeah.
So that was only one round of interview, or you had?
It was just one time, 3 hours.
And before that, you had a phone screen
Only phone
with
screen.
the recruiter? Or?
No, I didn't have the HR call. I was called by,
Manager?
he basically leads the team that writes algorithms for the system. So he was interviewing me first time on the call, on the phone. And I think the guy liked me a lot. And that's why at the end of the interview, he said, I'm extremely confident we're going to invite you for the in-person interview. And the same day, I basically got the invitation for in-person. But it was like just two things.
You know, just talking with you right now, I can tell you what really worked out. And I think the main thing, I mean, the strongest characteristics in your personality, that if you know you're talking about this confidently, if you don't know, you confidently say that I don't really know, but I'm willing to know.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you express actually this behavior. And I think that's the most what the employers are looking for. They don't looking for like, you know, superhero who's kind of bullshitting them. Instead of they're looking for a person who gonna solve their problem and willing to solve their problem instead of bringing them problems, right? And yeah, I think definitely that works out. And congrats again.
Thank you.
That's amazing. All right. Keep it up, guys. Keep it up.
All right, let's get back to our automation. I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay, hold on, that's the wrong one. Okay, so we left off. Okay, so we run it here and then we started searching for
Login.
For a locator for login, right? Where's my console screen? It's right here. And where is my chat? Okay, cool. So let's get back to.
Can I say?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a / I believe, and then login.
Okay, so you guys decided to. Let me actually do that maybe all together. So this is the element, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually, it looks like it's a button. It's actually not, right? It's anchor. You see A? It's a link. And link is basically text, that clickable text, right? And button is actually like a big, large kind of like an image kind of thing, right? So it looks like a button, but it's actually a link. I mean, whatever. And it's not much, right? We only have text, which is login, and we only have one attribute, which is href. What's href? Yeah, it's a reference. So basically, it's a link. And this is nothing but, you see, if I mouse over, it shows the actual URL. And I believe, yeah, since there is not much for us here, so let's just go with, what would be, I'm going to use CSS for the most parts because it's kind of, I like it better, it's shorter. So let's check this, and it doesn't work. Why? Because we don't need period here. Right, and then what else? href dot login. That's not working for me. Give me a second. Oh, of course, there is no such button on this page, right? No wonder it's not working for me. Alrighty. Okay, now we see we have 1 of 1, so this thing will definitely work. So yeah, good job, guys. The only problem left is, like, how do we call?
When?
What should we do? Okay, so what are we guys doing here?
When, then you're gonna output the direction, the path,
When?
the location.
Something like I click.
When going.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So you see, again, auto suggestion. So last time we looked at the README file. This time I'm going to show you the shortcut because, again, this is power of IDE. So you just start typing in. All of those steps start with I. So there is a different style. Sometimes you say like user clicks. In this case, this is a frame provided by framework again. So this is how they designed it. So for us, we just use it. That's it. Right? So they defined the how to use this. They integrated everything already. So it's a lot of work done. We don't have to worry about that. So what we need just to do here is just pick the right one. So what do you think? I accept alert box? Kind of not, right? I mean, definitely click, right? This one.
Yeah.
I click on the link button element, something, right? Okay. The same thing, we need to click, clean up this thing a little bit because there's a lot of, you see it actually the same method you can use for double click, even though for web applications, it's not really kind of useful. It's mostly for desktop applications, for Windows. Double clicks are fine, right? But for web, it's usually single click all the time. But anyways, this framework actually does that already. It knows how to do that. So here again, we can, I believe we can, we can keep whatever we want because it's really, it doesn't do anything different. It's just a matter of kind of representation. So we can keep link, we can keep button, we can keep, I don't know, for now, even we know it's not button, right? We can just say like, I click the button, and then here we just need to provide what?
Link.
The location.
Oh, sorry, location.
Locator of the button, like this. That's it, right? Okay, don't forget to save. Again, you see there is this dot, and I believe it marks them dots here as well. So if I save, so that one went away. Well, this one is not. Okay, anyways, let's see what's going to happen now. Yeah, one thing here, switch screen goes there. Did you click anything?
Yeah.
It was too fast, right?
Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling it clicked because it actually says it here, right?
Yeah.
You see in the log, it says green. So it clicked, but it never waited for anything. It just clicked and boom. That's it, right? Because we never asked for anything else. So, okay, one thing here to mention. If you use quotation, please use single quotation. Why? Because this whole thing you see, it's wrapped in a double quotation. And if I use double quotation, you see, it doesn't know like what doing. It actually breaks the locator. So that's why please just use a single quotation. You can only have double quotation outside, like start and end. So everything else should be single quotation. You can have like multiple single quotations, right? It will be start, this one will be end, this one start, and this one will be end. It's okay, right? But please don't use double quotation. All right, let's keep going. So, and when is what?
Then.
No, what's when
When
stand for?
Action.
And speaking test cases, what are the elements of test cases?
Then.
No, what's when? No, what's, so we know that given is precondition, what's when?
When is the step? So,
It's a step, yes. Basically, these are just steps for test case, right? So when I click on the button, and this is the step, what's next? So we click on the button.
the result.
Hold on, something is. Can you guys hear as well? It's, I think something is
it's
wrong with. Okay.
yes.
Okay. Can you guys hear us now? Sorry, I had some issues here. Okay, loud? Yes, okay, or it's not loud enough. Perfect, okay, hold on, let me check. All right, so, so what are we doing next?
Then.
What's then?
Then an expected result.
We have to see like a,
Then,
let's say picture, or let's say login page or something like that.
okay, so we do then. And what you see, all I expect, so clearly then is expected and actual. It's actually kind of both at the same time. So you probably something like observe, right? If you can do that. But yeah, it's expected and actual result. So how do we, what would we use? What's our expected result here?
Let's redirect us to login page.
The user is redirected to the login page.
Okay, how do you know it's user was redirected to?
Picture or URL or the model like login model or
Login window.
Yeah, it's not model, but
login page. So you can type your email.
yeah, so I would say kind of to stay safe, to play safe, you can use this. Well, let me try to do something.
Or we can write the locator.
You see, there is still some page. So basically, I wouldn't rely on this too much because it can be really anything. It doesn't mean that you seeing that page.
What about the locator?
I'm not saying we should not use that. We definitely can check for that. At the same time, the locator that we clicked on, it was actually, it had the URL. So it's kind of, again, you click that URL, and of course you expect to be on the same URL. So I would say it's not like the best kind of marker for us to indicator if it's the correct page.
Okay,
or
what
not.
about the image on this page?
Yeah, so I would say what we should do instead, we should figure out something unique about this page. So how do we know that this page is this page? Well, the trick here is that, check this out, sign up page.
The same.
Not the same. It has 3 different
Field.
fields.
Fields.
Yeah, and login page has 2.
Or a login button, let's say.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
You see the difference, right?
Login register. Yeah.
So you see image is still there.
Yeah, image is
So
not-
true.
someone said that, yeah, we can check for image. I mean, yes and no. It will still pass even if it's sign up page
Yeah.
for whatever reason, right? So it's better to be kind of strict.
Login button,
So
no?
login button,
Yeah,
mm,
there is no.
I mean, at least it's unique, right?
Maybe email address.
I can give you a clue. So email and address pass, these 2 fields are exactly the same. If
Yeah.
you check the locators, they are exactly the same fields.
Uh-huh.
So again, I wouldn't trust them much because it can be either.
What about username? If there is no
Okay.
username.
So let's do the following. And that's actually interesting thing because, yeah, you can use some, let's say image, but in case for some reason you get to sign up page, the test case will still pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to, because it should be failed, right? But it will pass. And it's actually one of the worst things. It's when it shows green, but in reality it failed, it's misleading, right? You think that it's all good, but it's actually bad. And that's the worst. On the opposite, it can pass, but this case will fail. At least it will get your attention, right? You will check it and you will say like, oh no, it's actually, I don't know why it failed, but it actually okay.
You have to check.
It's kind of better. It's like, but if it's green and it's a failure, that's the worst. And of course, the best case when it is what it is, right? If it fails, then it should be a bug. If it passes, then it should be okay. This is the ideal. So it's called false positive and false negative. Okay, so let's see what we have over there. So 2 column and of course 2 column row. Okay, I bet you it's the same for both, because this one is probably left row and this one is it row? Oh, it's column, right? 2 column. And this one is an image, welcome image, you see, login image. And this one, you see, now we have some difference. Now we have login header, which is this one, right? And then we have form, and this form has 2 fields, and then login submit. Well, okay, now if you change it to this, let's see what changes. You see, even though it says create an account,
Login
it's
header.
still login header. Can you rely on that? No, you cannot, right? And this 2 column row is the same, so I wouldn't really trust it much. And even this one, you see, where is that?
But there is
Like login text. So what will we do? That's a tough one, huh?
yeah.
Yeah, of course we can do a lot of things here.
What's the menu? Let's do manual.
Let's do manual. I like that. Yeah, so, okay. Well, at least we have some idea, right? But let's go back to this file, to preview README and see what we have here. This is then steps. I expect the title is, okay, can we check the title? Which is this one, deans.com. Probably we cannot, huh? I expect that element does not appear exactly a couple of times. Well, we can use that because, for example, on for sign up, we have 3 fields. For login, we only have 2, right? So we kind of can use that. Let's see what else do we have. Element is on the page specific number of times. Okay, certain element is visible. Yeah, we can probably stick to either like this one or login, right? At least that one clearly says that it's login. The rest of the stuff is kind of questionable, right? Not necessarily, because again, it's a sign up, but there could be some other features, similar ones. So anyways, yeah, let's see. Login, submit, and here, you see, buttons have different properties. You see, if it's register, it's button class, UI large, fluid button, green button, register. And if it's login, it's button, green button, PL, and then data test ID, login, submit. UI large, fluid button, green button, PL. Okay, let's see. So I would say the easiest here would be what?
Login.
Yeah, I like guys the way you think, online people. So yeah, we have, in fact, we have quite a few options here, right? So I'm saying this, I expect that element contains the text login. I expect that element contains the text login. Look at this. You see? We can use, we can say I expect that element is visible, and then use, you see, this one is unique part. So this one for login button is unique. The register doesn't have that. So we can just use this as a locator and say, hey, this element should be visible. And that will say that it's a login button, right? So we are on login page. Another one, of course, with the text. Where is that? Yeah, I expect that element contains the text. Not bad, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like that one. Thank you, Ludmila. I never tried that, but yeah, let's check this out. I think it's pretty cool. Then I expect that element, you can scroll down, exists, appears, focused within, contains, attribute. Hold on, where is that?
It's so easy to do this with this test.
Does not. Hold on, where is that? This one probably, right? Oh, no, okay. Then I expect that okay, hold on. That I expect that element contains, okay. Element contains That's the wrong one. Contains text, and then the element will be, now since we have another one, which is the text, we don't have to be so strict on locator, right? Because even though those buttons both have the same locator, kind of, we can really use like whatever, because we have text as a backup.
Just look
It will validate against text, not against the locator, right? You see, so we have like a few options, really. Which one would you pick? It's up to you. I would say that's your bread and butter. You need to figure out what's the most efficient, makes sense, clear to understand, reliable, quick, ideally all of those things at the same time, right? Anyways, but what we can do here is really just check for button. What will be the locator, guys, for that button? Guys, let's find the locator for that element, for login.
So it's a button, right? So it's gonna be like a flash.
Hmm?
It's a class.
Come on, online people. So what do we have here?
Login submit button.
So we have, what's the tag for this element?
Button.
Button. What are the attributes?
It's a
Data? No.
Data test ID,
Login submit.
that's the one, and the second one,
class.
and we also have text.
Mhm,
So we really have only 4 options here,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
So which one will we use?
Login submit.
Why is login submit?
Why not?
Button.
I know.
Yeah, we have 4 options.
Okay, here's the trick. If I say button like this, it's valid CSS syntax, but it searches by text. You see how many buttons we have?
Mhm.
And I mean, it's not exactly the thing. So what we can do instead, if we switch to console, and console, it's, well, this one is console. And console is used for basically for programming language. What's the programming language in the browser?
JavaScript.
JavaScript, exactly. So what we can do here, we can apply different syntax. We'll do the same. That's a bonus from me. So you can use it like this. You see, I did $, and that one, the syntax is actually not JavaScript, it's jQuery, which is a library for JavaScript. You can just do it like this, and I ask to find me an element with a CSS locator, which is button, just the tag itself, nothing else. You see, it returned me only one.
Yeah.
Only one element. So for this page, button is actually the only element. So we don't even have to say like much because it's unique already. We just say, find me any button and check. It should have a text login. I think it should be fine, right? Of course, we can do a little more. So for example, how do I know it actually works? So for example, I can search for input field. And input field, oh, hold on, actually. If we do $1, it's single element. If 2, then it's multiple elements. So you see, if we do it like this, it returns 3. Redo it one more time. So I'm gonna check it here. How many buttons we have? It's still 1, right? So it's safe to say that we can just use button and that's it. We can also use like anything else, really. So for example, we can use that, what was that? Data something. I can even copy it from here, you see? This one. Oops. Just copy it from there and then just paste in here. You see? Why it's not working? The same thing, because of the double quotes. Because you see, this one is black already. It should not be black, it should be red. So if I replace that with a single, you see, it's still the same element. You can use like button UI, like this, like how it says. You can even, you don't have to use button, you can just say, let's say green BTN. I picked something, this one, right? In the middle. Of course, because it's now we're using class, I have to have a dot in front of it. You see? It still works. You basically have like billion of options here. Make sense, guys? Online people? So I'm gonna be lazy here, and since I know, and I like, you know, again, the shortest and the clearest way, because what is this button, right? That's it. If it's button, that's fine. I expect that element, and this is button. We don't need not. We can use the negative actually. Contains the text. And then the text is login, I believe, right? That's the button name? Login. Okay, gonna save that and let's see how it goes now. It goes here and clicks login and then boom. Huh. And we are seeing that it's actually failed. What's wrong, guys?
With the locator.
So yeah, before we go even further, this is one of the most critical things. So if it fails, you need to find the root cause. And it's always gonna be failing for some reason. You need to find that reason. For that, read the message. That's the first thing.
An element could not be.
We also have screenshots because again, it ran for a second, boom, done, right? If you missed the execution and it failed, it's really hard to guess like why it failed, right? Make sense? No?
Yeah.
So we have to debug this now. So it says an element could not be located on the page using the given search parameters button. Okay. Hold on. Let's see. Do we have a screenshots for that?
It says in given, right? We, I think it's URL for like for the homepage, not for the login. No.
It failed here on the button. So these two were fine. It failed over there. So let's see what are the screenshots we have. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it actually prints out the name of that screenshot. You see, saved screenshot. So it is 11/16, 20/05/59. This one, the last one in the folder. If we click on it, we can actually see it within the Visual Studio, which is nice. I mean, it looks fine to me, right? Looks like all fine. What's wrong with this? Okay, the next one, an element could not be located on the page. Given search parameter button.
Denise, we pointed in given the URL of homepage. Do we need to check like I opened the site
Yeah,
here? No?
but this is a homepage, then we click on the login, and then we expect the button should have a text login.
Should we specify the URL of login URL? No?
Later. Let's do it later. Okay, let's dig into this thing. So what can be wrong? So first of all, I'm gonna go here and check for that locator. Sorry, I'm gonna switch back to, no, actually, no, I'm gonna keep using this. So let's see if we have that button here on this page. And we don't, so homepage doesn't have any buttons, right? But this one should have a button, right? So the first thing that comes to my mind, it's actually maybe, well, even though on the screenshot we can see it, it feels like sometimes we should wait for an element. So let's check how we can do that. So if you go back here, I'm gonna put another one here. So first of all, I'm gonna expect that something becomes visible. So probably this one. Oh no, sorry. So that element becomes visible. So this one. And I just want to speed it up a little bit. Any element that becomes visible, I'm looking at this image right away for some reason. Not necessarily it's the best one, but well, it has a class, right? So let's try to do that. So I expect that element login img becomes visible first. Let's try that one. If it works. Oops. Okay. Guys cannot see. So now that one worked, but buttons still didn't work. It's interesting, huh?
Mm-hmm. We need to put login.
So done, button contain the text login, expected. Huh. Now you see the error message is different. Mm-hmm. Now it says that there was no text basically, but it should be login. That's a kind of detective job, right? You have some clues, but you don't really know what's wrong with that. And again, that's why automation is hard, and they pay a lot of money because you have to figure all of these things out.
Can you imagine how many times you're gonna spend on investigating the mistakes? It's easy to do manually.
That's why I said it can take you like 100 hours, and manually will take you like a minute or so, right? Yeah. So with the time. And some of those test cases don't make sense again too. Some of those test cases can take you really like 30 hours, but because you know you're gonna run it like 3 times and it will take you like 15 minutes each. It just doesn't make sense to automate. It's a very bad return on investment, right? You're actually kind of losing money and time with no reason. Right? Makes sense? Maybe text login is displayed. Yeah, you see, it didn't work for that button for some reason. Anyways, but image worked.
The login submit. No,
Login submit.
because here you see
Yeah,
the
login
data
submit, right.
testing login submit,
Yeah.
not just login.
Well, I think it found the button. It couldn't find the text. For some reason, it returned empty text. So here we can actually check what's in there. And no login. So anyways, you see, it's not that sometimes you feel like it's a good good step, but it doesn't work, or you don't understand why it doesn't work. You can spend some time in figuring this out. Sometimes it just doesn't. If you found the right if you found the solution that works, and we have like few solutions already, right? We found quite a few solutions. Usually you just take like whatever is first and faster.
Okay, we have already checked the picture, right? Image. What if we now, at the same time, we got picture and link with login, like a both?
Yeah, and yeah, that's another way, because as we noticed, the image is the same for
But
both,
link?
but link is different, right? So we may think about, okay, why wouldn't we add another assertion, another expected result? Basically, we determine if it's login page based on this image, which is unique for login and for register actually too, but we can actually narrow down by saying like, yeah, well, URL has to be login, right? Yeah, let's do that. Let's see how it goes. So I'm gonna remove this for now. And what will be the end? All right, yes, you can use end here. I believe it doesn't really, you can use it any time, but I think it's nice when you have like given, when, then, end. So end kind of relates to the previous step, right? So what would be the step for that?
And I expect that, what is it?
And I expect, actually, hold on. I would guess that, because we're talking about URL, right? Actually, I misspelled that, but it doesn't matter. You see, I picked a word within the step somewhere, because URL is somewhat unique, right? So I don't even have to know like the exact step name. I can just guess it. And this is another power of IDE. You can just really guess, because other developers who created this, they thought about me. They thought like, okay, how we can build it so another developer who's going to be using it can simply just intuitively guess the stuff, right? And this is why it's called programming language, because I have no idea who wrote that, but that guy did a great job, because I can understand him by just reading and guessing as another developer. So you see what programming language is really?
He used to be the QA.
No, it's a development. It's a development here, and this is how it's supposed to be. We can communicate through the code even though we don't know each other. He wrote that code some time ago. I use it now. and I can understand that guy, even though I have no idea about that person. You see it? That's why it's programming language. So that's a cool thing. So yeah, just guessing and deduction, right? Deductive method. So I expect that the URL is this, right? Well, we don't need not. And what should I put here?
Like a slash login.
Like login, right? Well, probably slash, right? Okay, let's try this out. Where's the browser? Here's the browser. Ow! Something failed. Okay, let's see. Okay, now you see. It failed on the last one, so image worked, and expected URL is login, and it says what? Expected URL to be login, but found. You see, this is expected result, right? We put expected result, but this is, but found, this is actual result, right? This is like test case, just different wording. And you see what it is? Dean's master now sh logout, right? So what it did here, it validated the whole thing. So even though we said /login, it kind of appended the base URL. Well, by looking at this, I'm happy because, well, yeah, it did fail, but it worked actually. So just a little detail is missing. And the detail is actually not the URL. This is wrong step. I guess it incorrectly. And it's called actually path. This one. So URL is the whole thing, right? Yeah. Path is something after the slash, after the base URL, that's the path. Well, okay, not a big of a deal. So I expect that the path is, and then here we say login. Let's run it one more time. All right, it goes there, login, boom.
Wow.
Congratulations. Okay. Now, we made it, it's green now, right? But remember, we don't want it to be false positive. Why? How do we make sure that it's not false positive?
We run it and look at the website. No?
Okay, so the first one, is we have to run it a few times. Some of those test cases, they are flaky because the internet connection could be slow. They're mostly sync issues, but sometimes it passed now, but if you run it 3 more times, it will fail once. And for automation, no, you want to get like stable result. Again, if it should be passing, but for example, internet sometimes is slow and we know that, what we can do, we can wait longer, but we have to resolve that. I'm not gonna do that right now. We're running out of time, but what I suggest here is we should test our own test. What? How do you guys think we can test our own test?
Retest?
No.
Test. We go by
Manually.
each step using.
How would we guys test our own test?
Manually.
Well, first of all, we watched the execution and it looked fine, right? You click the button. I could see that, yeah, click the button, the login page, it was login page for sure. It opened up and I mean, it was pretty fast, but I could see that, yes, that was the right page, right?
Maybe
It's not enough. So we actually did that already. So those expected results, these are kind of positive expected results, right? So what we need to do here, we need to change our expected results. So in case of failure, it will fail. Does it make sense? So let's say I expect that element.login.img becomes visible. I mean, it's clearly that image, right? But let's say that image is not visible. What can I do here? I can just add something weird in the end. And what I'm doing really here, I'm saying like, I'm looking for some element that I know doesn't exist for sure, right? Because, well, you can add 3, you can add like something like this. This element doesn't exist for sure, I just made it up, right? So let's see what we're gonna get as a result if that image is not visible. What do you guys think? Will it pass or will it fail?
Fail.
It's gonna be fun.
I expect that these elements become visible. It shouldn't be visible.
Okay, now we can see it takes a little longer, right? We can notice it. It takes a little longer. Right?
It's forever.
Takes forever. Takes way too long. Oh, it's actually wrong screen. Hold on. Yeah, that one was debugging screen. Let me run it one more time. It's confusing. I have 2 Chrome windows with the same page open. That looks exactly the same. Okay, so this one, I'm gonna move it here. So we know it's a brand new. It goes there, it clicks. Okay, now we're still waiting. And we're still waiting. Yeah, looking for that image everywhere, exactly. That's what it's doing because we gave it a wrong locator. We know that doesn't exist on the page. And it was waiting for 10 seconds. That's a wait time in a config file. If you notice that in the beginning of the class, there was a 10,000 milliseconds to wait. So before failure, it will wait for some time just in case maybe again network is slow or whatever issue is.
Can we change timeout?
Yeah, we can in settings, of course. So, okay, let's see. Open the site, click on the button, I expect that element becomes visible. Nope, right?
Another one pending.
And that one is, yeah, it just failed and just quit right after. So that gives us an idea then, yes, if that element is not visible on the page, it will fail and will really attract us to see like, okay, what's wrong? We have to go there now and check like, how do we do that? We do it manually, right? If automation fails, we just follow the steps. Basically, open the site, click on the button, because it's your test case, right? And then you check if this one visible. We also have the screenshots, right? Okay, cool. What else?
We can change the path for working.
Yeah, we can change the path because it's a second assertion. Assertion, it's really like expected and actual result. It's more technical word. Developers called it assertion. So let's say the path is something else. I don't know why I love 3 today. Let's see what's going to happen. It failed. Why it failed? It failed on that step. expected to be login 3, but found login.
Yeah.
Make sense? Okay. What else can we do? We can test another thing. Remember that's a sign up thing. Remember what's going to happen if it clicks sign up for some reason, right? We can change it a little bit. Let's see, href register. We can test it, keep it as it is, but simulate that it kind of clicked the wrong button, let's say, right? Would it pass or would it fail? Like this.
One will pass, one will fail.
So the end goal here, test case, have to really show the truth, right? And basically if it fails, then it fails. That's why we can use more than one assertion, but by the end it's either pass or fail, right? There is no anything in the middle. So we kind of simulated the wrong click, right? The wrong page. We can really check any page here, and it always should fail. The test case should fail.
But
it can fail on the image, or it can fail on path, right? It kind of doesn't matter, gotta fail. If it fails on the wrong page, then it's a good written test case. We can rely on it. And we can really let it go now, and that's it, and forget it, and keep adding more test cases. So yeah, you see definitely it failed, and why? Because expected to be login, but found register. Makes sense, right? If it's home page, it will fail again. And it actually shows why it failed. And it captures screenshots so you can check, was it the right page? So was it like your script? Was it navigation? Was it assertion? What was wrong, right? So the last thing, of course, once we play around with this thing, so the final round, we make it again green and run it for the last time. And after that, I would assume if nothing changes with the code, you can run it for like hundreds and thousands of times. It will show you the truth. And it passed now. Cool. So I think this test case officially is done. You can add another one. And how to do that? The same thing. You just go scenario again, and then we gave it a name like successful login, right? And then given and so on, right? So any questions, guys? I'm gonna do that.
Everything clear.
We need the hands-on experience.
Yes.
Hands-on practice.
When
It's
we
nice
do
because-
image step. Yeah, so the image we need because we want to wait for a complete page load. So for example, let me give you a good example here, especially with React application. This is one of the interview questions for automation position. Let me show you something. So if we search for something, you see what happened? It's spinning. The page is already loaded, kind of. No, not really, partially loaded. And you could see that the kind of the footer header was loaded, and probably footer and these buttons, filters were loaded, but there was a spinner.
But it can be.
So this whole section wasn't loaded. If you try to click this button, it will fail because there is no such button. There was a spinner. And the map was actually not there.
Timeout.
And if you do it that way, it will fail because of timeout. this is very special cases for modern web application because it's not like a single page load, like when you don't see anything and then boom, the whole page appears. It's usually partially loaded. Those modules, you can see like something is displayed and rendered, but some other pieces are missing, and you cannot interact with them if they are missing, right? So that's why you will need to figure out like when exactly, how do you know the page got completely loaded so you can really do something with that page. Make sense? So that's why we need to wait sometimes for certain elements. So for automation, finding locators, for sure, that's one of the most important techniques, even for very simple and powerful framework like we covered during this class. I would say you can use it you can just grab it as it is and use it when you get a job for like smoke automation. It will take you like literally after installation, you don't have to code, you just need to find those locators. You can write those test cases. You can really cover smoke within a week, maybe even faster. We wrote this test case within like what, 2 hours or so? Of course, because there was a discussion and all that. You could probably automate this type of test case within like 20-30 minutes, right? So within a day, you could do like 3-4 test cases. And then the whole smoke would be like 10 test cases or so, week maximum. It's not a big of a deal. For regression, I wouldn't recommend to use this framework because it's called Cucumber boilerplate. And why? So this is its power and a weakness, strength and weakness. The good part, all of the steps are there. We don't have to code the thing, right? A lot of things. We can check for elements, for visibility, we can enter something. There is a step for that as well. We didn't do that, but we can. Where is that? I double click, clear input field, set to input to basically type something in a field like password or email. You see, submit form, cookies, model window. It basically does like pretty much anything you need. But the problem is here is not reusable code. So if you need a login, you will have to write that code in every test case. I navigate to login page, I enter email, I enter password, I click login, and then you log in, but it's preconditioned because you wanted, let's say, to buy something, right? You will have to like duplicate a lot of those steps. So that's why it's not really best option for regression, where I saw that number like 100 plus test cases. In my previous company, we had 1,200 test cases automated, I believe. And we only had coverage around like 50 or 60%. So we had like 2,000 plus test cases, only like half of them was automated, the most important ones, but it's 1,200. So no, it's not 100, right? So for a project like this, yeah, a few hundred test cases would be good coverage, but the most important ones, right? You don't want to check like color of every single like text. It's not functional testing. You want to like click through, make sure that login works, make sure that you can buy something, make sure that you create a trip, make sure that you can register using referral codes, right? Those kind of things are important. If it's like dark red or like light red color, like who cares? I mean, it's technically a bug, but it's low priority. So for automation, it kind of not always makes sense to automate unless it's like super critical, which I doubt it is, right?
I have a question.
So, yeah, sorry. So I'm gonna go through a couple of questions. We say write simple automation test cases for resume. Yes, it's actually, there is some test case for you, and then there is another one, how to actually log in, right? Well, we all know it's not working. Yeah, there is some other test cases that you can practice. You can use production environment, and ideally, yeah, if you could automate the smoke, those test cases that we have for smoke, or at least like 3-5 test cases of your choice. And superheroes should automate the whole regression.
He said it's impossible with Cucumber, but it's gonna work.
If it is possible, it will take you like quite a while. And then maintenance, if something get changed, maintenance will be hard.
will fail.
Yeah, so yeah, you can put in your resume that you do have some basic knowledge of automation, use this framework, and it's true, right?
Can we say like a 10% automation, no? Like for testing.
Again, if they're looking for strong automation engineer, that's not you, right?
Yeah,
It
definitely.
takes time, and it's way more complicated than we showed you during this week. It's like 100 times more complicated. But yeah, you do have a knowledge. You can write, you can even automate something, right? If you need it, even for yourself. What else? I would suggest you to say that you automated smoke just because you got tired running it like a few times a day, every day. You just automated that, and next time, like you need to run the smoke again, you're like, okay, just do it like this, right?
Just for fun.
For this particular one, all that you need to do is just change that base URL in the settings. That's it. It will go to another website, whatever, be Facebook or Google or whatever. But they have, if you open too many pages, they will block you and they will show you CAPTCHA. So that's how they prevent super active users to interact with the websites too much. So yeah, sorry, I think there was the last question.
Yeah, it was my question about the percentage of because some of the
Oh, okay.
companies, they ask what is the percentage? Do you have any knowledge of automation? And then let's say I ask them, what is the percentage you guys doing? They said like a 90 by 10. So can I say, no?
Well, two things here. One is the test coverage. How many test cases you have for your all the functionality, right? And then what's your automation coverage, which is which part of those test cases that you have is automated, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Hope you enjoyed the class.
Yeah, we did. Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
I should have this class